Morning, Forbes. Great to be here with you.
Well, nice to meet you as well. As I realize that I'm already a fan of yours. I've been taking your products and I just didn't know it was you.
Well, it's nice to finally meet you. Fitness has been a part of your whole life. So when did you first start?
No, fitness has not been a part of my whole life. Fatness has been a part of my whole entire life. I grew up with a mom who was, God bless her, 260 pounds my whole life. And in fact, I have a fun little photo I'll share with you. I started out, well, I'll just give you a little brief history for everybody who may not know who I am. Uh, I started out life in Long Island, grew up talking like this with the parents who loved me. And I think that's a huge advantage in life. I worked very hard to raise my two twins to know that they were very loved. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money or stuff you've got, if you've got a healthy background. But it was also laced with all kind of issues. And Chris, I'm not sure how you live your life or why you do what you do, and you've done it very well, but I believe that life happens for you, not to you. So if I look back at all the things that have happened, especially the negative things, and realize that that's why I'm who I am, I now teach and preach to thousands of students. I have 47,000 active students. And one of the things I live by is that life happens for you, not to you. And so can I share my screen? Yeah, I can. I'll just give you a little visual because I think it's important when you talk about fitness, which is ironically part of my life. I mean, that's what I love. I'm in the National Fitness Hall of Fame. And I'm like, how did a little chubby kid get there? Well, that's what's so inspiring for other people. And the first thing that you have to notice about me is not fitness, but communication. So that was me in kindergarten. Kind of cute, except apparently my parents didn't notice that my mouth was really weird. And when they finally brought me to an orthodontist, he said, you got a real jaw issue. And Chris, were you in braces at all?
Never.
Never. Shower. All right. So most people, a year, 2 years, 5 years. Have you ever heard of anyone who had braces for 8 years?
8 years
Eight.
now.
Yeah, from 8 to 16, this little cute little girl had a mouthful of freaking silver, but this was a mold of my mouth. And my mother, God bless her, this crazy, wonderful Ukrainian, was a hoarder. She saved everything. Do you see that date down there? That's 1968. I still have this, by the way. And it's really bizarre. So they put me in braces, but the crazy thing is they screwed this thing to the top of my mouth called a tongue thruster. And so for 2 years of my life, I talked like this. Chris, do you have kids?
I do.
Boy, girl?
I have one of each.
Okay,
Well,
can you imagine your daughter being told how ugly she is on a repeated basis and she can't talk and defend herself? So this was me. You know what? I guess maybe I don't have a picture of me being overweight. I'll share that picture later, but I was chunky. My mom loved us with food. She was 260 pounds my entire life. And I was like a size 14, 16. And I loved to dance, which made it even weirder because I had these big old chunky thighs that rubbed against each other. And I led a very isolated, lonely childhood. And so I watched a lot of movies, a lot of TV. I wanted to be James Bond so bad and have a life of an adventure. And all I got was ridiculed. Well, what the crazy thing about this, and it's a weird story, I promise you've never heard this. My father, who was a magician, an engineer, and an inventor, had a garage full of all these crazy things. When I was young, he turned to me one day, he's like, kiddo, how do I get my inventions out to the world? Like, Dad, I have no idea, I'm 8. But when my dad died and all of his stuff was just there, I don't know if you've ever cleaned out your parents' house, but the yard sale people came in, the garbage collectors came in, and they threw away everything. And it's funny how that informed most of my life. I took inventors and people who were starting companies and just put them on infomercials, live home shopping, and made millionaires because I couldn't help my own family. Okay, so that's great. When I'm 15, he slips on one of his printing presses that he made, and he cuts off the whole front of his left hand, like sheared it off. And he was going to spend 3 years in the hospital, 15 operations. And so how old are your kids?
Um, 22 and 5.
Oh, wow, good for you. When I was 15, my whole high school was rather than go to football games and basketball games, I didn't go to any of those. I went to see my dad in the hospital every night and brought him dinner. And we were broke. And it was a very confusing time. Like I said, I knew we had a lot of love, but we didn't have a whole lot of everything else. And my life didn't look like anyone else's. And I was a straight A student. That was the big thing I wanted to prove to my parents, that I was smart and that I was a good, that they were worthwhile, if that makes sense. Well, at 15, I'm in the hospital with my mom. And it's funny how the best of times and the worst of times, I didn't write that line, I've just lived it. My mother turns to me and she says, I'm really sorry, kiddo, we have no money for college. That was the only dream I had. I was going to be a lawyer and save people and do all of this. And she said, but there's a beauty pageant. And I'm like, okay. She said, yeah, they're giving a full scholarship to college. Now, I see if I can find a picture of this, because the really sad part about the story is that she looked at my face. I had broken my nose and no one fixed it. I had braces forever. I was overweight with frizzy black hair, and I was really ugly. And she didn't say it like that, but she kind of, here, I think I have a photo, just because people look at me now and go, oh, you couldn't have been ugly. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's not about what you think I was. I thought I was. And my dad's doctor turned to my mother at that moment, and he says to her, I'm going to fix your daughter's nose. And if I can find a picture of it, I'm going to show you something. It's an amazing transformation about how I went to bed looking ugly, like nose and everything. And I woke up from this operation looking really kind of cute. And I remember a moment, a really crazy moment, looking in the mirror and saying, I think we could do this. I think we could save my family. We're going to enter this competition. And we did. And the really silly part of it, in a hand-me-down bridesmaid's dress, I won. I won Miss Teenage New York. And I ended up going off to the Miss Teenage America pageant with Bob Hope on TV. And all of a sudden, I was going to say all of a sudden my life changed, but it didn't. In fact, it got worse, because I was really prejudiced against when I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1977. All these little girls who practiced being in pageants. I didn't want to be a pageant. I wanted to be James Bond. I didn't care about all the frilly stuff, sorry. And so when I got there, they're like, y'all have the funniest accent I ever heard. I'm like, what you talking about? So I come from New York. What's the problem here? And a lot of things changed for me. I went off to school, and I was going to be a lawyer. And then, I had one guy believe in me for one moment. Do you have a mentor, somebody that you look up to?
I have a few different ones. Yes.
This was the most unlikely one. So on the outside, I had all these crazy things going on, and I auditioned for the lead in this play, or I auditioned for a play. I usually got like chorus or townsperson number 3, and it was Shakespeare's As You Like It. And I ended up getting the lead in my senior year of college. It was like, and I went to the professor pretty much saying, I think you made a mistake. And he sat me down and he said, no, not only did I not make a mistake, but you're my ideal Rosalind. For this character, she is witty and manipulative, and she's in charge, and I see all of those characters in you. No one ever saw any of that in me, except me. I thought it was there, but people were like, oh, just go off and do your little thing. And then the crazy thing about this, and this is the life-changing part of the story, is that Professor David Richmond was 100% legally blind. Chris, the first guy to see me couldn't see me, but he saw what was in here. And based on that belief, as crazy as it was, the play was a hit. I was riding high. I called my parents, who used to both get on the phone at the same time when it was attached to a wall. And I said, I'm going to New York to be an actress. And they're like, oh man, we love you, but we can't help you. I'm like, I know, I got this. I don't know how I know, but I'm going to do this on my own. And I built an entire empire on my own because I had no other choice. And I have great stories. I mean, I was on soap operas, and I was on Broadway, and I did movies and commercials and I worked all the time. And I even did things that I'm now going to start talking about that were out of the box. I, at some point, couldn't find an agent. I was talented enough, but I was also really cute at that point. And I got chased. Maybe I wasn't even that cute. I don't know. All I know is I got chased around desks. You won't relate to that, but your daughter, your wife, women especially back then, and they all thought it was kind of normal. And I'm like, that's not my world at all. And so, Chris, in the weirdest of moments, I got a piece of stationery and I printed CMA on it. And I opened a little company called Creative Management for Artists. And I hired a woman named Lindsay Maxwell. And Lindsay thought Forbes Riley was spectacular. You know why? Because I was her. And I pretended to be my own manager for 3 years. Do you know how well I book things? But I was living this, talk about imposter syndrome. I was like living this crazy double life. And I'm like, and I couldn't tell anybody because I was afraid they were going to arrest me. So I just like lived in my own little world. I worked all the time and I had dreams of being this thing. And I created 2 different companies during that time. And some of this is hopefully going to come out in a movie because it's almost unrealistic that this happened. And then from that, I moved to Los Angeles. I was the host of the Laugh Factory, the biggest comedy club, even though I don't know what comedy is. I helped start the X Game. I was the host for ESPN along with Stuart Scott. I started this is another crazy thing. The entire industry of selling products on television happened because of Body by Jake and me. And you're like, really? And it's like, yeah. I walked into an audition one day and there was a pen on the table and it said, sell me this pen to the camera. And I thought, oh gosh, I don't sell anything. I don't do retail. I'm not a waitress. I can't stand money. I don't know what to do with it. I just work. And I looked at the camera, and this is an interesting thing if you're an outsider. I looked at all the other actresses and I thought, you know what they're going to do? They're going to look at the camera and they're going to say, it's a pen, it's got ink, don't do that. And my little crazy brain said, be outrageous. And I looked at the camera and I said, it's a funny thing about pens. But when I was in college, I skipped a year of high school. I was so smart. I got there, I was 15 and a half years old. But I was so lonely and so insecure that my mother would write me longhand notes every day. And I would read them and I'd feel comfortable. And I realized a pen like this can reach out and touch somebody's heart. Well, Jake of Body by Jake, let me see if I have a picture of that one, walked out from behind the camera and said, you're going to make me a lot of money. And I'm like, he grabbed my face. I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. But he did. And it's kind of like you had a vision for a company, from what I've heard, that you instantly in the first year did $10 million. That's not typical. Well, that's what happens when you have crazy dreams. And so I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this is me on television 30 years ago, pioneering the idea of selling fitness products and wellness products. Can you hear that?
Convenience, 24 hours a day. Now get ready for the latest in sports, fashion, and exercise gear on Fitness Plus. Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and today we've got a great product for you. Take a look at this. Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and backed by popular demand, the best way to develop rock-hard abdominals. Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and welcome to Fitness Plus. Now, if you want to burn calories and tune your whole body, all in the comfort and privacy of your own home. So I'm feeling my thighs work. I love this.
The pads close against the flywheel.
Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and welcome to Fitness Plus. Today, we're introducing you to the most diversified, balanced, and personally designed workout for the 90s. Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and joining me to explain how you can have...
It's kind of funny when I look at that, Chris, because what you're looking at, I see Slam Man, I see the bread maker, I see tooth whitener, I see roller skate, literally 1,500 different products over 5 years. I wrote the pitches for all of them. There was no even onboarding handbook. How do you sell stuff? I had no idea. I'd never sold anything. But I somehow innately understood what it means to pitch and get other people on the other side of this TV camera to say yes. Jake and I did this for 5 years. People would come to us. I didn't need to know what the product was. I would look at them, look at their CEO, look at their cute little fitness model who could barely talk. Like, oh my God, what do you do with this? I'm like, it's an ab machine. And she's like, okay, and I'm like, okay. And I always wore a jacket. And this is kind of a funny thing to share with you, but you see all those jackets I'm wearing? I didn't look like a fitness model. I didn't have abs. I had kind of a butt. And it just, because I overate and I didn't know that, even though I like to work out at some point. So I always covered up my body and I always hired the little fitness models, which is kind of an interesting thing as I've gotten a lot older that ate away at my self-esteem. Even though I was good, I was making major money. Jake sold this network, by the way, to Fox TV, that's Body by Jake, for $500 million in 1993. That's crazy, right? So the next thing that happened, talk about being in the right place at the weirdest time, infomercials were born. I didn't birth them, but I nursed them, and that's kind of crazy. And the other thing too happened at that same time as HSN and QVC were also born. And all of a sudden they needed people to sell things on TV. And how many women were doing that at the time? So there I am, and we sold all kinds of things. I launched a company with Serena Williams called Cool Towels. We sold $55 million worth of Cool Towels in 3 summers. I sold my fitness product. I saw the sold out sign around the globe. I sold from England to France to Spain to Italy. There's HSN and QVC everywhere. Canada was a big one. And then when infomercials happened, well, sorry, this is still home shopping. And it'd be fun. I know at some point I'm going to let you talk. But I created a fitness product, kind of an unusual product. And whenever you're first to the market, it's not the best place to be because you get kind of, people don't really know what you're doing. But you see this number down here of 55,344? That's in one day. And I still have 4 minutes and 41 seconds left to go. I know that sounds crazy, but at the end of that day, we will have sold 64,000 of my fitness products. That's one day. That's an entire stadium at a football, professional football. It's like, I couldn't almost get my head around the fact that I spent 5 years developing this, and I got a check for $1.2 million, technically for a day's work, which is mind-blowing. And then I did pioneer this whole industry. So there I am working with George Foreman on his grill. Billy Mays and I did a whole lot of shows together. Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. We actually launched Kim Kardashian's career. And what I also love about this, for anybody watching, I'm going to say some fantastical stuff. And you know what's crazy? I can prove every one of them on video. You can go to YouTube and you can see my infomercial with me and Kim. You can see me hosting the X Games. You can see all of this, because I don't like when people like on Instagram make all these claims. I happen to have lived all of this. And the smartest thing I did was to take pictures of it so that I can share you going, no, seriously, Jack LaLanne and I and Elaine launched the juicer. Now, the funny thing about this is that juicer, they tried 3 times before with very famous actresses to be the host. None of them worked. I met Jack and Elaine in Toronto. We had one conversation, and I think, and it ended up being on air for 8 years and sold $1 billion. Here, check this. Do you remember this?
For over 50 years. It is my pleasure to introduce to you a couple of living, breathing testimonials to the wonders of juicing, Elaine and Jack LaLanne. And Jack,
how are you?
Elaine, how to? Oh, absolutely. Look at you guys.
You know, I was with you on television 34 years, and you know what I told you was the gospel's truth. And I had one thing in my mind, trying to help you to feel better, look better, so you can live longer. And
now, the crazy thing about that moment, that changed, not only did it change the world, $1 billion worth of juicers sold, but based on Jack and Elaine being my personal mentors and friends. Elaine's still alive at 99, and she is my fitness and health guru. I love this woman. But that's the perfect pitch. If you listen to the way Jack said that, and what I do is I teach pitch. I teach people to communicate, to get what they want. And it's been a fascinating part of my career. So I went on to host 197 infomercials. I grossed $2.5 billion in my time. And I stopped counting, by the way, 7 years ago. I still have infomercials. In fact, I think you've seen one running in the East Coast of Florida, East Coast of Florida right now, that I helped open 6. It's still, television still a very viable medium. And then when all the digital marketing started, they all came to me and said, well, how do you structure an infomercial, from the testimonials to the call to actions so it's been a really exciting career. And I think I'm just getting started.
Awesome. What advice do you have to connect with an audience on stage or camera or social media?
Wow. That's such a big conversation. I teach pitching. I have over 47,000 students. And one of the things that I begin to talk about is that you have to re-language how you speak. When you are asked a question about what do you do, don't dump all over somebody. Don't tell them, well, I do this and I do that. The irony is I just did that, but we're on a podcast, it's fair. But when people say to you in a social setting, or when you get up on stage to talk, people don't care about you. In fact, nobody cares about anybody. They care about themselves. And so if you begin to understand that when you talk, you're of service to other people, your message lands. You don't tell a story without a point. You don't make a point without a story. And that has served me incredibly well, because, even on the basis of levels, I get people comfortable just shaking somebody's hand. Hey, what do you do? The least answer anyone ever wants is, oh God, I do so many things. Let me tell you we're not interested. We're interested in what I can do for you. So, and there's some real fun ways to do that. So one of the things, the reason I told you that whole entire story is, one, to go look, how did the chubby little kid with buck teeth and braces become the billionaire status, and do it on my own? I did it in a time when women were not very well respected in a lot of different industries. I never married for money. I married my first husband, and he was 6'6" Notre Dame football player. I love strong, amazing men. And we raised a little boy. We have twins, and we raised a little boy from South Central, a little blacker than my outfit here. And I loved Dexter and taught Dexter unbelievable lessons for 12 years. He was best man at my wedding. And then 6 months after I gave birth to my twins, he was walking from a haircut to church wearing blue in the wrong neighborhood, kind of like you are. And he got murdered by a kid who walked up behind him and shot him 10 times, left him for dead on the sidewalk. Talk about interesting trajectories. My husband took that really hard, sat on the couch for 2 years, and we had small little babies, and I just worked like for 2 years, didn't even know what I was doing, and came out of that, and that ended, and I'm now married to a very amazing man, again, a very fit guy. And people want to hear stories, but only as it relates to them. And so I tell the story now of me and Joshua, because when people look at Joshua, I don't mean to be a joke, but I made a list of what I wanted. I'm a huge believer in manifesting. And so as I've gotten to a certain age and I look back at my life, a lot of it, though it didn't look like it when I was in the wind tunnel, has turned out to not only be beautiful for me, but to raise two very successful children who are business owners at 22. My daughter became a millionaire at 18 with an idea that she has. And then I said I wanted someone in my life to love on me without all the other, I don't really care, all the things that I've done that are irrelevant. There's a little girl in here who still wants to be hugged and cuddled and told that she's the most special little girl in the whole world. Maybe not little girl anymore, but woman. And then I put on the top of my list, and I inspire men and women all the time to get what they want, because I was 57 when I made this list. And I said I wanted someone who looked like he walked off the cover of a romance novel. Now that may be silly, right? But it's okay, because when you dream, the biggest dreams are silly. You had a dream to create all of this, and you did. And you can't even explain half of it, but you just wanted it. So I have a game that I play, Chris. I show a picture of my husband, and I jokingly say, if you don't say wow when you see him, I'll give you $100. Do you accept? Do you accept that challenge?
I accept.
All right. This is Joshua Self. What do you
Wow.
think? And that is the only answer that you can say. So two things are pretty funny about that. One, as a magician, you always ask a question you know the answer to. And you can't not say, wow, with that picture. You're like, dude, really? People keep going, oh, that's an AI. And then he'll walk in. And I'm like, well, my AI is walking and talking in my house. But I met this beautiful man. He was already this fit. But an interesting story is that Joshua's always, he's a fitness model, a fashion model. And there's a great story about how he first overcame his drinking and whatever addictions and demons he had to become that fitness guy. But then we've been together for 8 years. 5 years ago, when COVID hit, he was hit on his motorcycle by a kid, completely creamed, shattered his ankle, his back, his ribs. He sat in a wheelchair for 6 months, and he shrunk down to nothing. And he came to me, that's June, 5 years ago, with a crutch. And he said, take a picture of me. And I'm like, oh, no. He said, no. I'm going back to the gyms when they open up again. He said, I haven't won my Mr. Universe title. And this is an after photo on the right-hand side. Well, he went on to build it all back in less than 8 months to get back on stage, to win his Olympia, to win the Arnold, to win Mr. Universe. And then that's a selfie because he's also a brilliant photographer and he's retiring this year. He's turning 48. But that's him currently. And then he had thought this would be a really fun photo, but he took that picture, which I think is still pretty extraordinary. And so I get to live in around excellence. And the final story that I'll just share with you, because I know that you're curious, is something about health and fitness. I've always thought about health and fitness. I'm in the National Fitness Hall of Fame, but because I've sold more, I've sold 1,500 products. I've sold 2.5 million of these things on home shopping. I'm pretty good at selling almost anything I put my mind to. And I love the idea. I'm passionate about nutrition and working out, but I also understand you get to a certain age and you're like, the metabolism slows down. I've had the most amazing things happen to me so I can bring it to the whole entire world. I turned 60 and I'm sitting with Elaine Lelaine and she's in her 90s. And Jack has passed away, which everyone thought when he was gone that she was going to go away. No, she is stronger than ever. She and I've been the forward in 2 of her books. She's written 3 books in the last couple of years. This woman is now 99 and sharper than you were when you're 20. I mean, it's like a miracle. Why? She works out every day. She juices. She eats a certain way. And I'm in her house and I kind of sad because 60 is like old, right? And I said that to her and she got very angry with me. She said, look at the cover of that book. And there she is with leg warmers and a little leotard. And she said, how old do you think I am in that picture? I'm like 40 something. She said, I'm 62 in that photo. 60s were my best years. Don't screw them up. And I'm like, okay, I love you for saying that. And I got this new lease on life. But I, in the last 5 years, have built a very large coaching company. And how many hours are there in the day, Chris?
24.
Yeah. And you sleep a couple of them, and then you're always like, I want, when do you go to the gym? So during COVID, I got a little comfortable sitting in my desk, doing all this. And Joshua last year, gosh, in January, he and I went to get a DECA scan, right? Well, he comes in at 9% body fat on the off season. I came in at 33%. And I was the highest weight that I've been since I gave birth to my twins. And I had a moment where I thought, oh, well, that's what it must mean to 60. And then, but it bothered me, but not enough. So then we go on a vacation. Joshua, myself, and the twins go to Iceland. We have a James Bond moment. We are snowmobiling on a glacier. Oh, we're loving life. We get on the van to go home and take a picture of my kids. Chris, that might have been the last photo that I ever took. The van hits a patch of ice, skids through the air, and crashes down on my side of the bus. My face goes through the glass, my daughter's behind me, and I hear her, when we landed, turn to her brother and said, I think Mom's gone. And I'm like, no. I didn't know how bad I was hurt, but I'm here. Well, I don't know how spiritual you can be, but I felt something hold me. I have my eye, my face, my cheek, and my brain. And we were an hour and a half from a hospital. If anything had been a little different, we wouldn't be here. Now, the crazy thing about that is we all crawl out of the top of the bus. I've torn my shoulder. We're all bloody. And we get cleaned up. We go to leave Iceland. And my husband turns to me and he says, when we get home in 3 months, there's a bodybuilding competition in our hometown for the first time. It's a pre-qualifier for the Olympia. I'm like, good on you. He said, well, there's a category for women over 60. I'm like, good on them. And then Chris, I don't know, I have a feeling you've probably heard something like this, but I heard a little voice go for it. Go for what? Go for it. I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't even own a bikini. I haven't owned a bikini since I was 15 years old. I got molested way back when I was younger, and I'm like, I don't do bikinis. And they want you to be in and then the funny thing is I got home and I opened up Instagram, and there was a woman in her 60s who had lost a lot of weight, and she had done it. And I got on my mastermind the next night. I have hundreds of people on the call. And I said, for no really good reason, you guys, in 99 days, there's a fitness bikini competition in my hometown. I'm going to enter it. I hung up the phone and thought, or the Zoom, and thought, I guess PTSD is a funny thing too, because I don't really understand how it all happened. I woke up the next morning. I didn't have any time to go to the gym for 5 years, and all of a sudden I have 2 hours every day. Joshua made me go carnivore. I followed the same diet that he did. He has a specific workout program about building muscle. I'd never built muscle before. And I'll show you a picture of the before. And this was halfway through doing that program. Ultimately, I ended up losing 35 pounds and 13% body fat. And I got a medal. I got a whole bunch of them. That's me with Gilad. There's Elaine, by the way, and there's Tony Horton from P90X. There's Denise Austin. We were doing the jumping jack Guinness Book of World Records just recently. But I ended up getting a medal, hanging out with my man, and oh my God, I changed my entire life in 99 days, and I made a movie about it. So that's pretty much bringing me up to speed.
Oh, it's amazing. So for the person that feels like it's too late, or maybe they feel like it's too old, what advice do you have for them to chase a dream, or even to chase getting healthier?
Well, first, stop listening to the idiot who's telling you you're too old and it's too late, because it's only too late about 7 minutes after you die and they can't bring you back anymore. Until that moment, key into an inspiration, a firefly, a light bulb. We talk about, I take my candle and I light your candle. Guys, I'm 65 years old. I have a husband who's 17 years younger than me. I just won 2 medals in a bodybuilding competition at 64. So I guess maybe if you're in your 90s, maybe it is too late. But anything short of that, you get to look at your life, and let's assume that life happens for you, not to you. If you just listen to me say all of the things I just did, one, I want you to thank Chris for bringing me to you guys, because my mission on this planet right now, and I feel very grateful that I am still here, and I feel a sense of obligation to tell these stories. I've spent a lifetime putting them together. I have a beautiful life, and I built it. You know, not a lot of people can say that. Unless you built the entire house, you can't teach someone else to build a house. You can buy a house, but if you don't know what it's like to pour the concrete, put the rebar in, understand the plumbing and all the things you needed to do in the right order to do them, you want to learn from somebody who did. And then I would find a house that you like and go, okay, it's called modeling, really. Going, I want that. So if you look at me and go, I feel like I'm too old, I would go, how old are you? How old do you feel? And also understand that every new process is about baby steps. Nothing changes overnight in life, but you start to align your decision-making process. I have a new book coming out. I have two of them, actually. Pitch Secrets A to Z is coming out in a couple of weeks. But another book that I wrote when I went through this weight loss challenge is called Flip the Switch. And one of the things that happened for me, and I really understood how you make change. Remember, I live with a world champion, and I still wasn't that inspired to do it. I had to find my own switch. And I'm going to tell you that it's not enough for your doctor to say that you're pre-diabetic or you're a little overweight. That doesn't do it. You know what did it for me? Picking a hard date with a consequence, having a real goal. And I do this with a lot of people. I set outrageous goals for people, and then we go and achieve them. And the more that you achieve something, the more you know you can achieve it. If you're somebody who's been beaten down in life, congratulations, you know now what not to do. And so let's assume that you want to be on a health and wellness challenge. What's the end goal? Oh, I could win $1,000. I'm going to tell you, you didn't do it. No one cares about $1,000. They just don't. You think you do in the beginning, but on day 21, when it's cold or hard or you don't want to get up, you're like, keep the money. I don't care. So maybe you have to find a consequence that hurts even more if you don't do it. So for me, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to let anybody down. I literally picked a date, a very arbitrary date. 99 days is nothing. I have people who've been training for a year, because you have to be seriously, it's hard to change that. You have to go, okay, I'm going to have a great workout program. I'm going to commit to it, and I'm going to eat the right way, and I'm going to nutrition the right way, and I'm going to do all of those things every single day, especially in the days you don't want to. I did not want, when June 28th last year came around, I knew, by the way, guys, when I got this bikini, I looked at it. I couldn't get one leg in nothing. It did not fit at all. It was like part of my body, and not easy. This is another thing. Most of you, especially if we live in America here, have not been educated on nutrition. Do you really read a label? Do you know how much crap is in the things that we eat? Even the vitamins and things, they'll put tapioca syrup and corn. I'm like, so you have to become this detective, and you have to have a reason to doing it. And the reason has to outweigh the excuses. So you've got to find that for you. Now, I've set a couple of things up for people. So one, I took an entire company to a bodybuilding competition recently, and all ages, all heights. And I said, guys, this is the goal. You're all going to either wear the shorts or the bikini. I don't care how old you are. And it was in 6 months, and we're doing that. Every single one of them got on that stage. It doesn't matter if you win a medal or not. It's all the energy and what gets you to that, and the knowledge you learn along the way, the camaraderie, and it was genius. Now, I just coached a woman the other day who said to me she wanted to lose 100 pounds. I said, okay, if I gave you $500,000, would you do it? And she thought about it. She's like, no, because she knew that when she doesn't want to do it in the middle of the night, the money, doesn't matter how much money, it wouldn't have worked. So I said to her, all right, she has a boss. I said, you're going to go take a picture of you in a bra and panties right now. She's like, oh God. I'm like, yep. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to tell me how long you think it's going to take you. She said, I can give myself a year. I said, okay, I've got a lot of people who've lost 100 pounds in a year. She takes this picture, gives it to her boss. And I said, you're going to tell your boss that if you don't lose it on this date, she has the right to publish that picture on the internet. The boss gets the picture and looks at it and she's like, well, no, I don't want to do that. She said, I know, that's the whole point. Promise me that you will publish it. But she's like, I don't want to. I'm like, I know that. So now you're going to be the accountability coach, because neither one of you want that picture to go live. And yes, you do want the picture to go live, because a before and after is what will propel you and help everyone else watching you. The next thing I thought was interesting is she was part of a company, not unlike FITTEAM. And she said, well, should I wait till I lose all my weight before I start with the company. I said, oh, no, no. You want to start right now on day 100, on day one of 100 pounds, because your journey, every single stop, every post, everything, every frustration is going to be inspiring to massive amounts of people following your journey. You'll end up with customers and friends and cheerleaders. And so we are 3 months into this. She's 22 pounds down. She feels amazing. She's building a company, which is kind of crazy because people are like, you go, I want to support you. I'll buy what you're doing. I'll take your college and whatever it happens to be. And I thought, we could do this with anybody. Anybody who sets a goal or a date and wants people to cheer them on. There's systems to do this. And I know that you have that as well, but it's brilliant to watch people achieve these things.
Absolutely.
Well, Chris, I first of all want to say thank you for this time and getting to share my story with you and your friends and family and all the people who follow you. I'm excited also to know more about your company and what you're up to. For me, the best way to reach me is through my name, ForbesRiley.com. And through that, you'll come to see that I do a training every Sunday where I interact with people and work on pitching. So if that's interesting, Chris, if it's okay, I would love to gift your team a free access. Yeah, no, I charge everyone else, don't tell them. But if you go to www.ask Forbes Riley. It's 100% free. It's 5 o'clock on Sunday. I go live. It's very interactive. They're going to meet some wonderful people. And so if communicating is something that's important to you, as it should be, how do you enroll more people? How do you get people to say yes? And here's how you know you should absolutely say yes to me coming on Sunday is based on the answer to this question. Okay, I'm going to imagine your answer. I'm going to ask you a question. Would you like to see something cool? Come on, did you think? Yeah. All right, well, how did I know that? Well, that's why you want to join me on Sunday. Never ask a question you don't know the answer to. It's one of my magician secrets, and I'm going to share that and so much more with you and your friends. In closing, and thank you so much for this time. It's been truly wonderful. People always say, Forbes, you've lived a very extraordinary life. Well, it's only that way because I chose it to be. There are a lot of dark moments where I cried myself to sleep and wondered if I was ever going to matter, if any of this would make sense, if the pain and the grief would go away. And just like you, I've been through some serious things in my life. That's what life is. If you ever find the book called Life is Fair, I think it's under somebody's books, under somebody's bed somewhere, let me know. Because everyone says, oh, life isn't fair. Well, I don't think anyone ever promised it to be fair. And, I don't know if we get to live more than once, but I promise if you do it right the first time, once is enough. All right, everybody, I am Forbes Riley. Chris, I look so forward to meeting you in person. Thank you for your time and your talent, and let's see what we can build together. All right, everybody, Forbes Riley, I'm out.
Thank you, Forbes. Thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for sharing your heart wisdom with us. To our listeners, if you found value in this conversation, I know you did, be sure to subscribe, share, and let us know what you like best.